all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
We're not just here to commemorate the events of 50 years ago. We're not just here to honor these men. They deserve all that they do. All that too. This is a conversation that needs to happen in every small town and every big city in this nation. This story is more relevant than ever.
And I went to door to door, so that's where I had help. But I had to take the job because I had a family to feed. Or when you got a family to feed, you had to do what you had to do.
All human beings, as Martin King said, have dignity. All human beings, all work has dignity. And so when the sanitation strike began in February of 1968, I knew the organizing was going on because I talked and met with T.O. Jones on a number of occasions, encouraged him in his work. He, in fact, should be one of our great heroes in Memphis and in the union movement. Because he often works without pay. You must develop a sensibility that you represent the voice of beauty and truth and justice for all humankind, for every man, for every woman, everywhere.
Danny is a national treasure. There is only one Danny Glover. He puts himself, his profession, his commitment, and his determination to speak truth to power on the line every day. I value your friendship. I value your friendship. Benefits of bargaining collectively. We have men and women working 1, 2, and 3 jobs, just trying to keep the lights on. They seldom see each other and barely see the children because the system requires them to toil consistently every single day. We have to achieve for these workers the same benefits of well-paid workers in the private sector. To think through how to give voice to the millions. That's what this week is all about. To exchange ideas. But Dr. King lives in every single one of us. He walks with every single one of us. He walks with us. And if you don't read him, read him. If you haven't read him, carry something with Dr. King. Read him. Read what he has to say about the relationship with labor. And how the relationship between the civil rights and the labor. Those are the kind of things that we need to take and reimagine. Dr. King
I was here that night that Dr. King made that Mountaintop speech. I was 24 years old, and I was sitting up there in the balcony at the second row back on the third seat. Dr. King was standing right here when he made this speech. And he had been to the mountain top, and he seen the Lord had allowed him to look over into the promised land. And he went on to make a statement that I might not get there with you all, but we will get to the promised land. When Dr. King came to help us in that sanitation strike, we was marching day in and day out. We would march out to Firestone Rubber Plant, back downtown. And we did that for 65 long days. And we was men that had wives and little children at that time. And we would come here in the evening, and there was ministers around this city and other people as well that was contributing money for us to have food to carry home to our families. And one of those men was Bishop G.E. Patterson. Which at that time was going by the name the young apostle Patterson.
Here today is Memphis is 63% African American, 32% in poverty, adults, 44% youth unemployment. 50 years later, this is the poorest city, big city in America. Half of those people in poverty, the working poor, make less than $10 an hour. The website today, the Memphis Chamber of Commerce advertises if you want to come to Memphis, it's a place of abundant, cheap labor. That's in today's advertisement by the Chamber of Commerce. I think it would be unfair for us to use this season put a cover on the parade and miss the demonstration. Didn't come here for a parade, we came here for a demonstration against poverty. And furthermore said that he's the most dangerous man in America. 100 men were locked up because of national marriage to get the one the first of the 100. And then of course the next day, in the middle of the conversation, he was shot. We decided that one thing, we would not let one bullet kill a movement. Today, if Atlanta says Bethlehem, Mason Temple says Gethsemane, Mason, Lorraine Motel says Calvary, and now we're in his resurrection.
We're going to have to wrap up, but I hate to be remembered for the person who took the microphone out of Reverend Jackson's hand, but I didn't have to let that go. I'll be forgiven, I know. But thank you so much. This has been so informative to all of us. You know, we know what we have to do from this moment on. We know the work that we have to do. We've heard from those men who stood heroically, stood here, marched here and everything 50 years ago. We've heard from those, Reverend Lawson, one of the architects of the strike itself, and certainly Bill Lucy, and none other than Reverend Jackson. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There are 4 million blacks in the South unregistered. Some of them in this room. 2.5 million registered who did not vote the last time. 4 million high school seniors this year can register this spring. register and vote, we can play our own trump card and retire fake news.
Of when a predominantly white and wealthy community faces gun violence, and when black and brown people are shot and killed on a daily basis. I'm here today because February 14, 2018 was the most terrifying day of my life. A man entered my high school with an AR-15 and murdered 17 people, 14 of them my fellow students. He killed my friends. This was the worst day of our lives, and I will do anything I can do to stop it from happening to other people like me. I am here today because I need your help. On March 24th, I saw hundreds of thousands of Americans of all races, creeds, ages, and nationalities gather in Washington, D.C. because they want a future where students like me don't have to be afraid to enter our schools. I felt the crowd's love and readiness for change. But this movement doesn't end with a march. We need people like you who care about your communities to join us in this fight. And finally, I'm here today because of all the struggles and sacrifices of the people who came before me. People like Bill Lucy and all the strikers here in Memphis. From 50 years ago, people like Reverend King. When I was in DC, I read a quote on his monument that said, "Unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word." They will have the final word, but only if we continue the work that he and so many others put to build a foundation for freedom. I'm ready to stand up. I'm ready to speak out. My generation is ready to lead and change the world. And I am asking you to stand up and fight with us.
Is this. Like Frederick Douglass and every other African-American leader understood, Dr. King understood the fundamental importance of public education for all. As he said in 1964, accepting the John Dewey Award from my own local union, the UFT, he said, "It is precisely because education is the road to equality and citizenship that it has been made more elusive for Negroes than any other rights, end quote. Think about what was happening there. Think about what was happening in schools, the power of our convictions. And whether it is generation to generation, as we are in this church, from Mei Ling and from the Parkland students, to the dreamers, to the fast food workers, to the teachers, to the sanitation workers, generation to generation, the champions of civil rights, to the students of Parkland. 50 years ago, people faced police dogs and fire cannons. Now, people are being pulled from their homes and deported. As much progress as we have made, we are fighting against a power elite that wants to take away our votes, our labor rights, and starve our schools. 50 years ago, it was the civil rights movement and the labor movement that was gathering up, that was rising for jobs and justice. Now,